Hello all. Um, yes, once again, it's Monday evening and we will have a live coaching session for this time the special features, insights and best practices for voice recognition or voice control of all the components and functions of simulator controller. As always, we will start with the configuration, then we will use the test mode so you can see the interaction with the different assistants live and in action. And I will also show you how to bridge the gap between the simple configuration wizard and the more let's say, more functional and more special configuration using the low-level configuration tool simulator configuration, which is necessary if you want to get the most out of the voice capabilities. For example, using different languages, different spoken voices and stuff like that. Okay, let's start with the simulator setup. And I think most of you have already seen some of the other videos, so I will not go into much of the details of this tool. We will jump forward until the page where we will take a look at the configuration of the general configuration of voice control. You found it on the page general configuration, and here you can define which synthesizer you want to use for generating spoken outputs and which recognizer engine you will use to yeah, understand your voice commands, your interaction with the software. Let's start with the synthesizer. There are 3 different engines available. The first one, Win32, is let's say the oldest one, which is available, I think, since Windows NT, new technology, but I'm not sure. It can also be Windows 7. The second one was introduced, yes, this was introduced with Windows 7. This is part of the so-called .NET development framework. It's a little bit more modern than the Win32 based speech generation, but it is also capable to use the language packs and voice packs of the older one. And the most comprehensive speech synthesizer is that which is running in the Azure cloud. This is the same engine which is used by Cortana. It provides very good, understandable voices which completely lack the kind of computer feeling. So you have yeah, you might have you might think that you are hearing a natural person here. Here at the top, you will have, or you can choose the language which is used by the race assistants, by the voice output. We will see later on that everything which you can see here can be changed individually for each assistant separately. But if you start with the configuration, so that you can get everything up and running as fast as possible, you choose one language, one synthesizer method, and one recognizer method. But we will see later on how to customize that more deeply. So 2 languages are available here. This is because the grammar files which define the spoken phrases and the understanding and the voice commands that are understood by the assistants are provided by me in these two languages, English and German. But it is possible to provide other translations on your own. The file format is quite easy. I will show you maybe later on where to find them if you want, for example, provide a translation for Italian or French or the French language, which would be great, to be honest. But I'm myself provide English and German. This language is different from the language you choose here. This is the language for the user interface. Everything you will see on the user interface here is in English, and also the language here is in English, but you may choose German input, as I do, for example, or the other way around. Okay, let's come back to the synthesizer. Once you've chosen the engine you want to use, you can select here one of the voices provided by this engine. We see here, for example, that the Win32 engine provides two different voices in English, or even only one. No, yes, even only one in German. These two voices are from a commercial pack I bought as an addition. That's not part of the standard Windows distribution here. So in German you will have only one here. And last but not least, when you go here, you will have lots of voices available for all the different languages. The options you have here, automatic, deactivated, or one of the voices. Let's talk a little bit about them. Automatic means that whenever more than one language is available, the system chooses one by random, which provides some variation, but I think it could be irritating when one of the assistants one time uses a female voice and the next time a male voice. So maybe you want to choose one of the voices as a fixed voice here, especially later on when we provide individual configuration for all the assistants. But at the beginning, you can start with automatic. I want to jump back a little bit. Here at the installation page of the setup process, you can install a speech runtime and one or more language packs for this runtime. These installations are for the Win32, no, for this recognition package here. Sorry, I was a little bit confused. Let's park this. sorry. My bad. Okay, let's first finish this one here. For the voice output, you can set the volume of the voice as relative to the standard volume of the Windows operating system. I never use the volume slider because the voice output is generally a little bit too silent compared to the sound generated by the simulations. I do even reduce the sound output of the simulations to better understand the spoken output of the assistants. But this one here, the pitch, the height of the tone generated by the voice, or even the talking speed, this might be helpful. For example, the spotter is the guy who tells you that a car is nearby, and it might be helpful if he's talking very fast so that you get the information as fast as possible. As I already mentioned, you can individual configure each assistant with its own settings for these values. Um, so we so that you can, for example, let the spotter talk fast, whereas the other assistants will talk normal. Okay, the next field here, socks. Socks is a small tool, not from me. It's a third-party tool which is freely available, which is very capable of sound processing, and I use this little tool to generate the typical radio sound which you will have if you are in a real car. So a lot of distortion, alien noises, and so on. Very good for the immersion, so I recommend installing SOX. We'll jump back here to the beginning. SOX is one of the optional components which can be installed here. I really recommend it. It is optional. If you don't install it, you will have a very clear voice, but it is weird if you compare it to the real radio sound in a race car. The other command, the other tool here, near command, is also recommended, although optional, because this tool can balance the sounds of different, the sound volume of different applications. And the assistants use this tool to mute one assistant when another one has a more urgent message. For example, if the spotter tells you that a car is on your right side while the engineer is talking about tire pressures, the engineer will be muted so that you can clearly understand the warning of the spotter. So I recommend to install SOX and near command, although they are marked optional. Okay, let's go back. Okay, that's about voice output. Now let's come to voice recognition. We also have here 3 different engines available. And now the first one, it's called Server. It is an engine provided by Microsoft for server-side voice processing, voice input processing. It was created for telephony services and is capable to work with very degraded audio quality. The 3 libraries I showed you before are part of this package. And if you want to use this recognition engine, you have to install them. When is it necessary to use this kind of speech recognition? I am using this speech recognition when I use a room microphone. For example, I have a webcam with a typical webcam microphone on the top of my monitors, and I'm using a 4.1 sound speaker system. And although the 4.1 system is quite loud and you hear the extensive engine sound of your car, you can still speak with your assistants using the webcam microphone when you are using this recognition engine, which is, as I said, capable to understand you even when there are alien noises. The next engine here, this is the built-in voice recognition of Windows. It has a much better recognition rate, but no, a much better recognition quality, but a less or a little worse recognition rate than the first one. So it will have problems with alien noises. But if you, for example, use a headset with a microphone and you're in a quiet room, the recognition quality will be much better using this engine. And last but not least, here the Azure service is the best of both worlds. It can work with very degraded audio quality and has also a very good recognition quality. And it is capable, together with some algorithms I implemented in the software, to use, or better, to detect commands which are not exactly phrased like the grammars. For example, if the grammar says, an example, the grammar says that you have to say, what time is it? You can also say, what time? Which is not possible using the first two recognition engines because they use the pattern-based grammars as they are described in the grammar files. But the Azure Recognition Service is more, let's say, fault tolerant. It can work with words that are missing and stuff like that. Okay, let's a few words about Azure. If you want to use these voice generation and voice recognition by Azure, you have to have an Azure account. It's quite easy. You simply search using Google for Azure, make your account, and create the Azure Cognitive Services resource in the Azure portal. For the typical use we have here with the race assistants, you will not have to pay any cent because the amount of free generated voice output and free recognized voice input is big enough to have several endurance races per month and a lot of training in between. But you have to provide your credit card. I am using the services without paying any money, so it will be possible for you as well. And the quality of the Azure voice output and voice recognition is really worth it. So go for it. Okay, the next thing here. Oh, we have a redraw problem. Yeah, now it's there. The next thing I want to mention here is the so-called push-to-talk. Unless you are using a very good headset microphone and you do not have any other voices in the room, I recommend using push-to-talk, and I really recommend it when using the Azure services, because when you're not using push-to-talk, Azure will listen all the time, and then your free contingent will be exhausted quite fast. So push-to-talk is you will typically spare a button on your steering wheel for that. Most of the steering wheels already have a button which is labeled radio. And you can identify this button by pressing this little A. It goes in a search mode. You can see it here by the tooltip. And when you press the button on your steering wheel, after a few seconds, it will recognize that you will hear a short sound, and the logical code for the button will be entered here. Push to talk has two different functions. The first function is, as the name says, you push it and then you talk it. So you press it, talk, and then release the button. This is the standard method when you have only one dialog partner active. As you probably know, there are several assistants available in simulator controllers. So the second function of the push to talk button is to identify the assistant which you want to talk to, who you want to talk to. And you do this by double pressing the push to talk button. So you do like a double click with the mouse, and you hold the button down after this or with the second press. And then you can say the activation phrase which is necessary to activate one of the assistants. I will have a live demo for this later on, so be patient. Okay, then the second field here after is something for power users, because beside the assistants, you can give voice commands. It is also possible to control other functions of simulator controller using your voice. And to do this, you also have a kind of activation phrase similar to Hey Jonah or Hey Kato to activate the listen mode of the simulator controller package itself. So, for example, if you are in English, you can use here Hey Controller, and then you can say next mode, for example, to switch a page on your button box. Also, we will take a look at this in a few moments. So that's the standard configuration. Once you have done this, you can already use the race assistants. They will use all the same voice, and they will use all the same recognition engine, and they will have the standard names as provided by the softwares. Let's say Jonah for the race engineer, Kato for the race strategist, and Eliza for the race spotter. You can change this. Be patient in a few moments. Okay, then there is convenience feature for beginners. We will take a look at this one. Where is it? Here. As I said, when you choose automatic for voice output, the system will choose one of the available voices by random each and every time you start the software. What you can do as an alternative, you use this preset, which creates a fixed voice, which is random, yes, but only one time random during the generation of the configuration, which means Jonah might end up with a male voice, but it will always use this male voice. And Kato might end up with a female voice, and so on. So depending on the number of available voices for the chosen synthesizer method, for example here, there are 6 voices available for German in the .NET synthesizer. You might have different voices for the assistants already, and they will be fixed, but maybe that are not the voices you want to have. We will see how to do this later on. Okay. The next thing, and now we will come to a little practice session, is that you want to test that everything is running fine before you go out on the track, because testing it outside of the simulation is much faster, and you can cycle through changing the configuration and retesting in a few minutes. It will be very easy to do this. The information how to use the test mode for voice recognition can be found in the documentation in the master chapter using simulator controller. This is this one here, and there is a section voice commands. If you jump there, you will be given an introduction into voice commands as yeah, more or less the same I've told you already a few moments ago. And you will see here the instructions how to start up a test mode. Okay. You do this by open a Windows command shell and go to the binaries directory of the software installation, and then type the 3 different commands here. Let's start with running the voice server. I skipped the debug option here because it will generate a lot of quite interesting but time-consuming output, which commands are available and so on. Okay, the voice server is running, and now I will start the race engineer. Okay, you hear a short sound. Race engineer is available, and because the race engineer now is the only dialog partner which is currently active, it is focused automatically. So you don't have to use any activation phrase to talk with the engineer. And if you, for example, only use the engineer also in your real racing sessions, you will never have to use any activation phrase to distinguish between the different assistants, which is quite obvious. So we can already talk with the engineer. We only need to press the push to talk button once. And as you can see here, the language for the race engineer was initialized as German. The name is Jonah. And I now press the push to talk button. Wie viel Uhr ist es?
Wir haben 19 Uhr und 26 Minuten.
Okay, he said it is 1926. Now we will change this to English. We will restart the race engineer. What is the time?
We have 1926.
Okay. So, as in a second step, we now start the race strategist as an additional assistant. Where is it? There is it. Okay, now we have 2 different assistants running. And at this moment, before you can talk to one of the assistants, you must focus him or activate him. The rules for activation are as follows. Once you have activated one of the assistants, it will stay activated. So you can talk to this assistant simply by pushing the push to talk button once until you either activate another assistant by using the push to talk activation. We will see this. Or once one of the assistants asks you a question. When you will be asked a question, this assistant will be activated or focused automatically. So you don't have to use the activation phrase before you answer the question. Okay, but now we don't have been asked any questions, so we need to activate one of the assistants by using the push to talk button, double pressing or pressing it twice and then hold it down and say the activation phrase. It's like this. Hey, Kato. He didn't understand me. Hi, Kato.
I am here. What can I do for you?
What is my position?
It is too early to say this. Please come back in 1 or 2 laps.
Okay, that is the standard answer for by the assistants when no data is available. Okay, fully understandable because we are outside the simulation. But you have seen that after the activation phrase, you can talk to this assistant. Yes, Peter just sent me the info that in Discord the assistants can't be heard. That's right. I didn't found any way to route the Discord output also to the streaming software which records the session. In this recorded session, everything is understandable, or the sound output is present. Sorry for that. Okay. Kato is still focused, so I can ask another question. Please give me the lap times. What are the lap times? What time is it? Oh, great. Hey, Kato. Kato won't talk to me. Hey, Jonah.
Yes, I hear you. What do you need?
Can you tell me the tire pressures?
We have a blue screen here. Windows XP is crap. Give me a minute.
Okay, same answer here because there's no data available. Let's try Kato again. Hey, Kato. Kato's ignoring me. Sorry for that. Don't know don't know why. I will restart it. Sorry. Hi, Kato.
Yeah, John. Have you called me?
Okay, now you have seen after I restarted it, it is using a different voice. That's because in the configuration, the engine is set to automatic. What are the lap times? Can you tell me the lap times?
Now it is exactly 1932.
Great. You understand time as the question for time. So it looks like I have a little problem here. I shouldn't have run the current development version. Sorry for that. But I think the concept is clear using push to talk and switching between the assistants and so on. Okay, let's go back to the configuration. I want to show you this here. Let's say Steuerung again. As I said, this is the options that you can use voice commands also to control parts of other simulator controller functions. And this is possible because you can associate logical buttons or logical controls, so to say, also with voice phrases. We have seen this in the session, in the coaching session for the general setup and configuration, how to do this. Simply use the right mouse button context menu and you can input one or more triggers for the logical controls. Here we have a two-way toggle switch, which is part of my button box, my standard button box. I start the software currently. This is this one. This is a two-way toggle switch number one. It has an on position, off position, and I can trigger the on position using the German phrase nächster Modus, and the off position, which is the previous mode. This is my mode selector here, using the German phrase voriger Modus. And to do this, I must activate the mode so that the system knows I'm not talking to an assistant, but I'm talking to the controller, simulator controller itself. Push to talk button, double pressed. Steuerung. Now it's focused, and then I can say nächster Modus. Nächster Modus. Oh, something is not running very well today. Sorry for that. Vorheriger Modus. Great. I do not know why it's not function at the moment. Sorry. Okay, let's skip that. But be sure it works as designed. Okay, so let's take a look at the generated configuration. Here in simulator configuration, you see all the plugins or modules available in the software. And here you have the plugins for the three different assistants. And if you select it, you will have all the initialization arguments for the different for the different plugins. And here you can change the voice, the name, the speed, pitch, and volume of each of the assistant individually. All the arguments you use here. Let's stop this one. Okay. Are documented here in the plugins and modes section. And for example, let's jump to the race strategist. You can see here that there are a lot of arguments available to initialize this plugin. For example, you can modify the language, which is then which might be different than the language you have chosen here in the general voice control configuration, which is only the default when you don't provide any individual arguments for the initialization parameters of the plugin. So, okay, you can change the name, you can change the spoken language, you can even change the synthesizer method so that each of the assistants use a different synthesizer, and you can do the same for the recognition engine as well. When we take a look here at the race engineer, he's named Tom in my installation. He uses the language mark. It's an English assistant. And he's talking a little bit faster than usual. So 100% volume, pitch is standard, but the speed of the voice is a little bit higher than normal. The values range from -10 to 10 for this, and 0 to 100 for the volume. And we use the .NET synthesizer, which means the standard Windows voice generation of the current Windows installation. If we take a look at the spotter, it's different. He's named Marcel. He's using the David voice. He's also speaking a little bit faster, also using .NET. And the strategist here is using the Azure engine, as documented here in the so here is documented which is format of the more complex synthesizer connection string for Azure, where you have to provide the endpoint and your token. And the name of the strategist here for me is Andrew. Okay. As somebody have already learned in one of the other coaching sessions, when I use the low-level configuration utility and I go back to the point-and-click wizard, everything here will be overwritten, and the point-and-click wizard is not capable to provide all this information. But I'm sure you want to use the point-and-click wizard to configure all the button boxes and stream decks and so on using the simple user interface. But you will also want to have other names for your assistant, other voices, and so on. And here comes a patch mechanism to help, which I already mentioned also in one of the other coaching sessions. Okay, let's take a look here. Installation and configuration. You have the possibility to change some of the aspects of the configuration generated by the simple setup wizard using a little macro language, which is described here in the section patching the configuration. The idea is that you can add additional arguments to the configuration elements, or you can replace some parts of the generated configuration with other parts and so on. And I can show you this exactly with the configuration I use. And let's go first here. All the stuff used by the simulator setup tool is stored in your documents folder inside the simulator controller folder, and there is a folder setup. This is the knowledge base of the simulator setup tool, the setup wizard. Everything which you do here will be stored in these files before the configuration is generated. you can place there a file which is named configuration patch.ini. This is described here in this section. And all the rules you supply here will be added to the final configuration generated by simulator setup. I now open this file. Okay. And you can add complete sections to your configuration. For example, this chat messages might be helpful. But important for our today's topic is you can add to plugins and you can replace in plugins. Okay, let's start with a replace. We want to replace the generated assistant named Jonah with Tom. So you say you want to replace in the section plugins for the race engineer this part, this text. It's a simple text search and replace this text with this text. And vertical bar is a separator. We want to replace race assistant speaker on, which is synonymous for automatic. This means the speaker output is there, but the used voice is automatic. We want to replace this by using the fixed voice Microsoft Mark. Okay, that's more or less the same for the other assistants here. For the strategies, we renamed it from Kato to Andrew. The spotter will be renamed from Eliza to Marcel. And we also specify fixed voices for these different assistants. Here and at the top, we provide additional arguments to the plugins, which will be concatenated at the end of the list of available arguments. Let's take a look again here. It simply uses its text operation and concatenate text at the end. For example, if this is not there, it will be concatenated by this little rule here. And here we say that the race engineer will use the synthesizer method.net. The strategist will use Azure, and the spotter will use again the .NET synthesizer method. And that the engineer will talk a little bit faster and that the spotter will talk a little bit faster. So, telling a long story short, I recommend to stick as long as possible using the simulator setup, which is much easier than using the low-level configuration tool. But you can use the low-level configuration tool to test and play with additional options and parameters for your plugins. And once you are fine with them, create a patch file, as you've seen here, so that you can still work with the simulator setup in the next round. Okay. Any questions?
No.
No. Okay. So let me think if I've told everything for today. Short look on my list. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, fine. Then we have it. We finish for today. I stop the recording and will upload the recording in a few minutes to our Discord.